Meet the Army's newest recruits. Silicon Valley executives are joining a new innovation corps in Army Reserve. I wonder why they didn't mention Palantir in the headline. The Army swore in the chief technology officers of Palantir and Meta, as well as OpenAI's chief product officer and their former chief research officer. Don't worry, they won't be deployed should we have boots on the ground. They're not even going to boot camp. Their starting rank is lieutenant colonel, a rank that takes more than 20 years to achieve. That's even if you started your military career as an officer. No, we can't have these guys going through boot camp, stripping them of their individuality and making them soldiers. We can't do that because they have too many things to influence while they're there. Oh, hey, I'm Kina. I talk about hard things with a soft voice. If you find this interesting, share it with someone. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Silicon Valley wants a war. OpenAI just closed a deal with the US Department of Defense. It could really reshape things for AI and national security. The DoD awarded OpenAI a contract valued at $200 million. They already got a $2 million payment. They are being paid to develop frontier AI capabilities. It's to address critical national security challenges in both warfighting and enterprise domains. The DoD also said the goal is to prototype agentic workflows, that the state is accelerating AI adoption. They're increasing joint force lethality and enterprise efficiencies. The Pentagon is actually using workflows that will speed up the adoption and bypass some of the usual rules. They're working on innovating outside of the red tape. Frontier AI is really powerful. It's less like asking ChatGPT a question and getting an answer back. It's more like having an AI that can do a project for you autonomously. If you said something like, plan my trip to Canada, you wouldn't get back a list of cities and popular attractions to visit. Instead, it would book your flights, find hotels, develop an itinerary, maybe even start the visa process too. It would do all of this on its own. It would break that big task down. Think of that kind of power in the context of defense, complex logistics, cybersecurity response, possibly surveillance. When OpenAI talks about this contract, something seems to be missing. They announced the deal as a part of a bigger thing. Their OpenAI for Government initiative. They put out a blog post. In their post, they say the deal will prototype how frontier AI can transform the DoD's administrative options. They highlight things like helping service members get healthcare and aiding cyber defense. However, that word the DoD used, warfighting, isn't there, not in OpenAI's version. I think that's kind of telling. OpenAI prohibits using their tech in military and warfare applications until January of this year, that is. Now they prohibit using their tech to develop or use weapons. Don't use our service to harm yourself or others. Frontier AI companies are facing huge opportunities in defense. There's big money in it, but they also want to keep this public image ethical, responsible. And that's getting hard to do now that the government sees AI as a vital tool in cyber defense. They could use it in warfighting while technically not being a weapon. These tech companies are walking a very fine line partnering with defense. Remember, top Silicon Valley executives are being sworn in to the US Army Reserve as lieutenant colonels. They are suddenly advising the Pentagon on AI from inside the building. This is not usual. They're not selling software anymore. They are embedding Silicon Valley culture. Move fast and break things directly into the Pentagon, where the stakes are incredibly high. These technologies are evolving. Now they have an ambiguous role in global affairs. Before signing the Project Nimbus deal, Google knew they might not be able to control how the country and its military would actually use their technology. In business, it's important to take calculated risks. The company understood the danger. They actually foresaw that they'd be unable to fully monitor or prevent the country from using the software to harm others. I won't be using either country's names. I want to avoid this video being restrained because AI picks up on certain words. I learned that lesson when sharing my experience with 9/11 in this video here. As always, my resources are linked in the description. I recommend checking out what Google's internal review said about possible criminal investigations from this contract. This deal required close collaboration. It was unprecedented compared to deals with other countries. Google hired a consultant to vet this deal. The consultancy recommended withholding the machine learning API tools precisely because of the risk factors, but they went ahead anyway. The stakes were huge. Google estimated this custom cloud center could pull in something like $3.3 billion between 2023 and 2027, not just from the military, but also tapping into financial and corporate sectors there too. This project operates under the exclusive legal jurisdiction of the state, a state that doesn't recognize the International Criminal Court. So that limits avenues for international legal accountability. In the contract itself, it stipulated Google must not respond to law enforcement disclosure requests without consultation. They also knew they'd have very limited visibility into how the software was used. Also, they were not permitted to restrict the types of services and information that the government chose to migrate. So they couldn't really say no, even if they wanted to. They couldn't terminate the deal either. Tech giants have maybe quietly empowered that country to track and, well, destroy alleged militants faster using a sharp spike in AI and computing services. Right. And this current conflict seems to be a major instance where commercial AI models made here in the US are being used directly in active warfare, even though they weren't originally built for those kinds of life or death decisions. This usage spiked after October 7th, 2023. Data stored on Microsoft servers doubled between then and July 2024, reaching over 13.6 petabytes. That's roughly 350 times the digital memory needed to store every single book in the Library of Congress. So these companies are becoming more open about this kind of use or maybe less restrictive. OpenAI changed its terms. Google followed suit more recently. They removed the language about not using its AI for weapons and surveillance. Amazon is also part of Project Nimbus, providing cloud and AI. Cisco and Dell provide server farms. It's a whole ecosystem. This country's military uses Microsoft Azure to compile mass surveillance data, phone calls, text. The data is then transcribed and translated, often using AI and cross referencing with targeting systems. OpenAI has acknowledged its limitations. They've said Whisper can sometimes basically make up text that no one said. It can even add things like racial commentary and violent rhetoric. So the companies know the tools aren't perfect and can even hallucinate or introduce bias. They do acknowledge flaws. So when you apply these known flawed tools to such high stakes, sensitive contexts, the potential for error and tragic outcomes is immense. What's developed and tested over there often finds its way back over here. In that country, they use a chat GPT like system to check social media. This led to hundreds of arrests of people, arrests for what seem like low-level political speech, such as sharing holy verses and images of the destruction, speech that's likely considered protected somewhere else. Broad surveillance and arrest for speech were previously thought unlikely in the US. That may not be the case anymore. Look at the students facing deportation for protesting. AI is now being involved. Catch and revoke. The AI industry's whole business model thrives on access to vast amounts of data. That makes places with less oversight, like conflict zones, particularly lucrative proving grounds for new products. They test it and refine it there, then they market it here. IBM and Microsoft provided software for their border crossings. Palantir offered predictive policing tech. Amazon and Google provided cloud back in the early 2010s, helping build that surveillance infrastructure. Microsoft Azure and AWS hosted surveillance data. Google's Gemini and OpenAI's ChatGPT were said to be used to make it operational. These products have been refined. Now they can turbocharge the US surveillance state, especially now that constitutional protections might be eroding. AI makes surveillance methods that were too expensive or labor intensive practical. Palantir is supposedly going to work with ICE. It'd be like a courier dispatch, but for humans. We know that Meta's content moderation flags harmless content. We know that OpenAI models hallucinate and mistranslate. What happens when flawed AI drives decisions about deportation or surveillance? You get citizens being deported by mistake. Even if the algorithms are basic or flawed, they provide a kind of technical justification for policies that might otherwise seem overly harsh or discriminatory. The AI is the cover, even when it's wrong. We didn't make that mistake, it was the AI. Silicon Valley is where billions in defense money are actually going now. The total US defense budget is about $850 billion. It will increase significantly if the Big Beautiful Bill Act passes. Right now, about $311 billion is set aside for research, development, and procurement, but the Pentagon can't pass an audit. That $311 billion is more than what every other country on earth spends on their entire defense budget combined. Historically, that money went to the usual suspects: Lockheed Martin, Boeing. Now, Silicon Valley is lobbying. They're challenging these companies for contracts. They are the new military industrial complex. Silicon Valley companies emphasize speed, software expertise, and AI. They're not shy about criticizing the Pentagon's traditionally slow, bureaucratic procurement process. The Pentagon is changing their processes to accommodate this. They've even started a taxpayer funded venture capital firm called DIU. There is a massive flow of your tax money going to big tech. Behind these companies, there's a lot of private money betting on this too. Venture capital. Private investors are seeing huge potential returns. They're betting on landing those massive taxpayer funded Pentagon production contracts. It shows how easily billions in public funds can shift to private investors, all under the banner of national security. Public money pulling in vast private sums. It's why you can't have affordable nationalized healthcare, because that money is earmarked for the Grim Reaper. These companies aren't just waiting for contracts, they're actively shaping the environment. Tech companies are major lobbyists now. Pentagon officials are moving into defense related venture capital or private equity. They use their connections, their insider knowledge to influence policy and steer more spending their way. It's the move fast and break things startup culture applied to defense. It could lead to products being deployed before adequate testing, meaning potentially flawed, unreliable, and dangerous technologies that don't work. So your money might be going towards systems that are ineffective or even risky when they're actually needed. If all of this innovation, all this talent, all this money is going into military tech, it means less investment, less brainpower, potentially less taxpayer funding for other critical areas. Think civilian needs, natural disaster response, public health, power grid tech. Military priorities are effectively kind of bending the direction of innovation. The sheer influence of this combined tech and defense lobby has played a role in the US lagging behind other countries in creating meaningful regulations around data privacy and artificial intelligence. The lack of oversight is something that ultimately affects everyone. It's clear this is a rapid, fundamental transformation happening in the defense industry. It's fueled by Silicon Valley innovation and vast sums of taxpayer money. As this alliance between Silicon Valley and the Pentagon gets tighter and profit is clearly a major driver, how do you, as taxpayers, ensure there's accountability for how your money is spent? What questions should we all be asking about the real world impact of a system that increasingly values speed and perhaps profit right alongside national security? It's definitely something to think about. I look forward to talking with you in the comments. On another note, in December 2022, I started my YouTube journey. I posted 2 videos. Fall of last year, I decided that I would resume posting on YouTube, but I had to challenge myself. So I came up with the 50 by 50 challenge. The goal was to post 50 videos from October 1st until the end of February 2025. While I didn't achieve my goal, I posted 49 videos. I learned a whole lot. Originally, this channel was supposed to share my experiences as a burned out American living in Spain's countryside, but the election results changed the channel's focus. That's when I posted the 3 American Myths video. It's right here. So I could continue documenting my experiences in Spain's countryside. Last Tuesday, I posted my 100th video between the two channels. Seriously, I went from posting 49 videos in 4 months to posting 51 videos in 2.5 months. Needless to say, that's a lot. I'm feeling it too. Moving forward, let's chat on Mondays. This will give me the opportunity to dive deeper into each topic. I write and edit these videos all on my own. I'm not the type who can say everything I want in one go, so editing is a must. Plus, editing is a creative outlet of mine. I will continue to post to Asturico on Tuesday. The videos there are the type of videos I like watching on YouTube. When I make them, I want you to feel the comfort I feel living here. If you made it to the very end, I'll see you next week. Okay, bye.